Okay, take two. So I'm recording this for the Thursday class because I won't be here on Thursday. So, but they can't. No one can see you. They may hear your voices if you speak, but no one can see you. It's really just a video for me to upload for them. Okay, so just so you know. So this is our last class. So I know I cannot believe it, and I'm really kind of sad because of the way the class worked out, I had to cut out some things. So there, I don't know. We'll have to do a part two. Maybe we'll have a party, and I'll give you all the other stuff. Or maybe you don't care, and I understand that because you're students and you're ready to go home for the holiday break. But we're going to end on libel, which really, if I had to cut, if I could only teach one thing, it would be libel. So you got the most important stuff. All the other stuff is kind of extra. You did not get my lecture on Prince, but we'll have a party and I'll explain that to you. But we're really going to finish talking about libel because of all the things that you could get sued for in the industry. It's going to be libel. We looked at the Richard Jewell case. Anybody remember what happened with Richard Jewell? Yes.
He had called in a bomb threat, and he tried to evacuate the area. And when the FBI brought him in for questioning, magazines and newspapers had said he was the main suspect.
Exactly. So Richard Jewell gets, and the issue is, he called in the bomb threat. And then eventually he was charged with the crime or accused of the crime. And there was a lot of libel, defamation, and mischaracterization. I did not say that correctly, but y'all know what I mean. Yes?
So would you say it's partially the FBI's fault? Because I feel like it would make sense for them to investigate him just because they gotta investigate the whole thing. So
yeah, no, I definitely think it's partially the FBI's fault. I mean, and I think the Richard Jewell case is actually used to teach ethics for both law enforcement and journalists because there were ethical mistakes made by law enforcement, and there were ethical mistakes made by journalists. So for our purposes, we focus on the journalistic piece, but you're absolutely right.
But what did the FBI do wrong?
Well, they did a couple of things. I mean, they interviewed him, and they told him, you're not a suspect. We're just going to interview you and get some help from you. And they, it wasn't illegal. It wasn't illegal to trick him, but it was unethical, particularly in his case, since he was also another law enforcement officer. So, and they tricked him into repeating and saying over and over again, I'm calling it a bomb threat or whatever it is he said, and then they used that against him. And then they did not read him his Miranda rights until deep into the interview. So they just did some things that were, again, not illegal, believe it or not. Please understand, the police can stop you and lie to you. That is legal. Not illegal, but unethical.
So they brought him in for questioning and told him he wasn't a suspect, but he was a suspect.
Right.
Okay.
So, but for our purposes, we just need to focus on the journalistic pieces and the fact that he actually, ended up suing the newspapers for libel and defamation, and he won some money as well. Today, we're going to look at two cases. One is, bless you. One is New York v. Sullivan, which is kind of the rule, if you will, for libel and defamation and slander. And then we'll look at New York v. Sullivan, and then we'll look at the case and at the University of Virginia. Okay, so those are the two case studies we'll look at today to learn this last topic. For my Thursday folks, you're not going to be able to see the slides, I don't think, from where you are and from where the camera is positioned. So you can follow along. The slides will be uploaded on Blackboard. This is kind of weird, but I'm really trying to make it work for both classes. Okay, so can you guys see this in the back? Is it too small? Yes, you can see it? Yes? Okay. All right. Elements of libel. Okay, so we've talked about this before. The libel has to be published. That means it has to be spoken, which is slander, or it has to be written, which is defamation. Okay? The words have to be of or concerning the plaintiff. So the words that are published have to be about the plaintiff. Essentially, you can't sue if they say something bad about your mother. You could be upset, but you can't sue if they say something bad about your mother. They have to say something bad about you. Okay? And also Thursday class, I'm on the very first slides. If you open up the slides on Blackboard and you're listening to me, you're on slide number 1. The material is defamatory. So if I say her dress was, ugly, that's not nice, but it's not defamatory. To be defamatory, it has to ruin someone's reputation in the community or ruin their livelihood. Okay? If I say that we found out that the pastor was having an affair with an altar boy, that's a problem. Okay? That could ruin his career. That could ruin the pastor's reputation in the community. Make sense? Yes? Okay. And to win a libel case, the material has to be false. Because if I say, God forbid, that the pastor is having an affair with an altar boy and it is in fact true, it's not defamation. It's just a sad set of facts. Okay? But if it's not true and I publish it, either through slander or through defamation, that's when you can be sued for libel. And that's why it's our job as journalists to make sure that the facts that we are publishing are true, that they are in fact facts, and you don't have to use air quotes. Mm-hmm.
So then wasn't it true when the newspapers said that he was a suspect because he was a suspect?
Well, the difference in the Jewel case is that the newspapers weren't really careful in saying that he was a suspect. Many of the newspaper articles, which is why many of the agencies actually settled with him, pretty much said not pretty much, but they did say that he was the person who set the bomb. They weren't careful with their words. And that's why the Atlanta Constitution, I think that's the name of their paper, they fought it because they said, we didn't say anything that was untrue. We said that he was a suspect. It wasn't our fault that law enforcement rushed to judgment. Okay? So that was the difference. I mean, if it's true, it's true. If it's true but it's bad, that doesn't mean that it's defamation. It just means it's true, but it's bad. Okay? So, and then at the end, the material has to be false. The hardest piece is that the defendant, and the defendant is going to be the media, is at fault. The defendant has to be at fault. And there's two levels of fault. There's either actual malice or negligence. So, now, actual malice, I'll stay right here. So, actual malice, so Thursday class I didn't change slides, I'm still on slide 1. Actual malice is a very high standard. It means that someone published something false and they knew it. As my kids would say, they lied on purpose. Or they were so irresponsible. For example, they got their facts from a 5-year-old and not a 50-year-old, right? They were so irresponsible that they should have known it was false. So that's actual malice. And that's a high standard, okay? So it's very rare that you're going to find that a true journalist, published something that was false. That's not what any of us are out there to do. We all are out there to publish things that are true. How we may make mistakes is maybe we trusted someone that we shouldn't have trusted, or we got bad information, say from a police officer or what have you. But very rarely are you going to find a journalist that says, I published something false on purpose. This is the standard that we use with public figures. This is why someone can say that Beyonce gained 10 pounds over the Thanksgiving holidays. Let's say somebody publishes that. And she knows that that's not true. She did not gain 10 pounds over the holiday. She's probably not going to sue because she would have to show that the reporter essentially lied on purpose when reporting that. If the reporter just says, well, hey, I looked at pictures of her, I compared pictures of her from 2018 to 2019, I had a doctor look at it and it looked like she had gained about 10 pounds, that would be enough. Because Beyonce is a public figure. Okay? So that's why, stars and things like they talk about. You hear them talk all the time about how the media is often wrong, but stars really don't sue because once you've put yourself out in public light, then we make it harder for you to sue. Because guess what? If you're a Beyonce, a Jay-Z, Taylor Swift, what have you, your whole goal before you became famous was to become famous. Your whole goal was for people to notice you. Your whole goal was to get press. We now don't let you sue because you're getting press you don't like. Now, if it's egregiously false and you really want to pursue it, then you can. For example, and I shared this with you before. What's the star's name? Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise sued because a newspaper wrote that he had abandoned his daughter. To him, that was egregious, and he did not want that out there, and it was completely untrue. And for him, that was enough for him to sue. And he won because the journalist admitted that he had told a lie. Admitted that it wasn't true. Judge asked, isn't it true that you knew that Tom Cruise really didn't abandon his daughter? He went to New Zealand to work to film a movie. The journalist said, well, yeah, but, he kind of abandoned her for 3 months. No, that's not the tenor of your story. The tenor of your story is that he abandoned her, never to come back, and left her and her mom high and dry. So Tom Cruise won that. So very rarely do public figures move forward with suits. Negligence is the other standard. Negligence is for the rest of us. And the rest of us, we have a much lower standard. It simply just means that the journalist was reckless. Very simple standard. The journalist was reckless. Why do you think regular folks like us have a lower standard to prove? Why do you think? Why do you think it's easier for us to win a libel case than it is for a movie star? Well, yeah, we're not making as much money. Yes.
Because since they're famous, people say stuff about them all the time, and well, they might not notice everything, but it's kind of just since so many things are said about people, it could or could not be true, and they're not it's not really going to ruin their reputation.
That's true. It's really not going to ruin their reputation. They really get, they're out in the limelight all the time anyway. And the other big thing for us, we didn't ask for it. Most of us as regular Joe Blows, we didn't ask for the limelight. We didn't ask to be thrust in the media, in the glare of the media. So if we're thrust into the glare of the media and it's bad and it's negative and it ruins our reputation, then it's a lot easier for us to sue. Say, we didn't ask for this. If you're a movie star or a politician, you kind of ask for it. You kind of ask for it. I've shared with you, I'm a politician in my town. I understand. I cannot ever go to Walmart because people will come. I promise you, I am in there looking crazy, right? Hat backwards, no glasses, I can barely see. And someone will come up to me and say, the principal at my middle school didn't let Johnny go on the field trip. Today? You got to talk to me about this today? Can you send me an email? But it's not something that I can complain about. I'm in the paper every week. If I vote on things, people disagree, I get hate mail. But that is part of my... People are really serious about their schools. So, real story. We are trying to replace the turf on the football fields at the school. We're doing a whole bunch of things in our district, right? Building a new schools, hiring teachers, getting teachers raises, like really, 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 really important stuff. The number one complaint I get is, why would you put turf on the football field?
Are you serious?
Of all the things, we are putting together a bill for $50 million to build schools, give raises, give kids computers. I mean, all this really phenomenal stuff. And I get more grief about the $1 million we want to put turf on the football fields. And that's just because we don't want to keep watering the grass, and all the turf fields are easier to manage. Who knew? In America. So, as a public figure, I cannot complain about what they say about me in the newspaper, unless it's really, really, it would have to be really, really false. But as a Joe Blow, when I retire, move to the beach, and anybody says anything negative about me, I then can use a negligence standard because I didn't ask to be put in the public eye. Oh yes, y'all, I'm going to the beach. My baby graduates in 20 months, but who's counting? Okay, 3 categories of public figures. Thursday class, I've moved on to the next slides. You can follow along with me. So this is actually slide number 3. 3 categories of public figures. Public officials, the president, congressman, all-purpose public figures, okay? So this is going to be like your movie stars, your movie stars, your entertainers, those type of folks. They are public figures because they are well recognized. Limited purpose public figures. So anybody remember? I don't even remember this guy's name. There was this dad, a basketball dad, and he said his sons were the best things to ever happen to the NBA, and he was getting them all into the NBA, and he was getting them shoes. I wish I remembered his name. Anybody?
Ball Brothers.
The what?
Ball Brothers.
Ball Brothers. And their dad was in the news, right? Their dad was in the news a lot. He would say these outrageous things about his sons, and people would say, you know, he was crazy. And even when one of his sons got arrested in China for stealing something, and President Trump said, I'm the one who got his son free. Ball said, no, he didn't. He's a fool. I mean, just crazy. I'm like, your son was about to do hard labor in China. Whether you like Trump or not, say thank you and get your son home and take his passport away. He should never leave the country again. But limited purpose public figures are people who become public for a limited time. It could be because they're a crazy basketball dad. There was a guy who, a man fell over into the train tracks, and this guy caught him, and it was all caught on video. He was, for a short time, he was a public figure. Those type of people, we have to use the actual malice standard. Okay? And that standard again, Thursday class, I'm now on slide 4. Knowledge of falsity. Person lied on purpose. They knew that what they published was false. Okay? Thursday class, I've moved on to slide number 5. Reckless disregard for the truth. That's still a high standard. It means that you should have known that somebody was lying and you just didn't pay attention. Again, you got advice from a 5-year-old and not, a 25-year-old. Okay? And there has to be evidence to prove that you should have known. And when we look at the UVA case, this is really important because I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit. But when we look at the UVA case, in the UVA case, the witnesses told stories, and when they did the fact-checking, the stories didn't mesh. And the fact-checker called the reporter and said, something's not right. Your witness said X, I'm getting Y, I think you need to interview her again. And the reporter said, no, just run with it. We're on deadline. That wasn't a good decision. So I want us to first look at the New York Times v. Sullivan case, because this is the case that gives us the standard. Plus, it is rooted in the civil rights era, so I think it's important for us to know about it. So we're going to watch this. Make sure you pay attention. We're going to watch this, and then we have an in-class assignment. No, you can't look at it yet because I haven't opened it for you. But I want you to watch the video, and then I'll open the assignment, and we'll get that done. And then we'll talk about UVA. All right. It's hot in here. Are you guys hot?
We live in strange times. The housing bubble burst, and the rise of inequality. Health is a very big deal. Taxes are a front-rank issue. Blue-collar jobs were lost.
Hope this finds you well.
We'll do this real quick. Thursday class, I'm going to shut you off for just a minute. I'll turn you back on when we watch after the video. New York v. Sullivan, it's uploaded on Blackboard.